The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting an almost eerie glow across the small diner on the corner of Maple and Fifth. Outside, a cold drizzle tapped against the windows, streaking the glass with tiny rivers of water. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and frying bacon mingled with the faint scent of cleaning supplies, creating a strange kind of comfort. It was late, past the usual dinner rush, and the diner was nearly empty. Only a few regulars lingered, nursing their cups in the solitude of their thoughts. At the center of it all was Emily, a young waitress whose tired smile belied the weight she carried every day. Her apron was smudged with grease, her hair pulled into a practical ponytail, and her eyes, though bright and kind, had a weariness that only long nights of hard work could bring. Emily had been working at the Maple Street Diner for nearly 3 years, and in that time, she had learned to weather a lot: rude customers, endless shifts, and the crushing loneliness of a life spent just scraping by. Yet no amount of training or preparation could have readied her for the evening that was about to unfold. As she wiped down the counter, 2 men stepped in from the rain, dripping wet and wearing leather jackets that reeked of cigarettes and trouble. Their eyes scanned the diner with a sense of ownership, a predatory confidence that made the few patrons shrink back into their chairs. Emily tried to maintain her calm, greeting them with the practiced cheerfulness that had kept her safe more times than she could count. But it was no use. The men approached the counter, and one of them leaned forward, slamming a hand onto the countertop. His voice was low, rough, and threatening. They began to harass her, making crude comments and mocking her while she tried desperately to keep her composure. Each word felt like a weight pressing down on her chest, and for a moment, the air itself seemed to thicken, trapping her in fear. Her hands trembled slightly as she refilled their coffee cups, the silver pot rattling as her knuckles turned white around the handle. The diner felt impossibly small, the hum of the neon sign outside the only sound that wasn't tainted by the menace standing at her counter. Her heart pounded in her ears as the men continued their harassment, emboldened by the emptiness of the space and the lack of anyone willing to intervene. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stories like this remind us all that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. Emily's mind raced as she considered her options. She could call for help, but the nearest police station was miles away, and she knew by the time anyone arrived, it could be too late. She could try to reason with them, but the fear in her gut told her that reason had no place here. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but leaving her post could provoke them further. She took a deep breath, gripping the edge of the counter, praying that somehow the night would pass without incident. Then, just as tension reached a near unbearable peak, the diner door swung open. A gust of wind carried rainwater and the unmistakable scent of leather and motorcycles inside. A group of bikers stepped into the diner, each one tall and imposing, their jackets adorned with patches that spoke of brotherhood, loyalty, and a life lived on the edge. The shift in energy was immediate. The men at the counter froze for a moment, caught off guard by the sudden arrival of others who radiated strength and unspoken authority. The leader of the group, a man with a weathered face and eyes that seemed to miss nothing, surveyed the room. His gaze landed on Emily, and there was a quiet understanding there, a recognition of someone in need of protection without a word being spoken. The bikers didn't rush or shout, they simply stood, a silent wall of presence that made the would-be harassers falter. Emily felt her pulse slow just slightly, relief washing over her in waves. The tension that had gripped the diner like a vice began to loosen, replaced by a fragile thread of hope. The 2 men at the counter, sensing that the balance of power had shifted, tried to bluff their way out, but the bikers' steady, unwavering stares made their bravado crumble. In a few tense seconds, it was clear who held control, and the thugs, muttering curses under their breath, slunk toward the door, their dominance broken. Emily blinked, unable to fully comprehend the sudden turn of events. She had expected the night to end in humiliation or worse, yet here she was, standing tall behind her counter, safe. The bikers, sensing her disbelief, approached with gentle smiles, their rough exteriors softened by their concern for her. One of them, a younger man with kind eyes and a crooked smile, leaned on the counter and asked if she was okay. Emily nodded, words catching in her throat. For the first time that night, she allowed herself to breathe. The diner, once suffocating with fear, felt alive again. The other patrons, who had been silent witnesses, let out nervous chuckles, relief mingling with awe. Emily felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the coffee she poured. These strangers, these bikers, had shown up when no one else would, and their presence had changed the course of her night, and perhaps her life. Over the following weeks, the story of that night began to spread. Emily learned that the bikers were part of a local motorcycle club known not for violence, but for their fierce commitment to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. They were men and women who had walked rough roads and emerged with a code of honor that guided their every action. The fact that they had stepped into a small diner to defend a stranger spoke volumes about the goodness that still existed in the world, the kind of courage that didn't need recognition but made a tangible difference. Emily's confidence began to grow. She still worked long nights, still faced the daily grind of serving coffee and comfort food, but she carried herself differently now. There was a spark in her step, a resilience that hadn't been there before. She smiled more freely, greeted customers with a warmth that was genuine rather than forced, and allowed herself small moments of joy she had long forgotten. That night with the bikers had reminded her that help could come from the most unexpected places, and that kindness, when extended, could ripple outward in ways she could never predict. Months later, Emily received an unexpected invitation. The bikers wanted to host a community event at the diner, a celebration of local heroes and everyday acts of courage. She hesitated at first, overwhelmed by the attention, but the memory of that stormy night and the fear she had felt reminded her of the importance of saying yes. On the day of the event, the diner was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of sizzling food. Families, neighbors, and even a few curious onlookers gathered, all brought together by a story that had started with fear and ended with hope. Emily moved through the crowd, serving plates and refilling drinks, but this time she did so with pride rather than obligation. The bikers watched from the corner, their eyes warm and approving, and she felt a profound sense of connection to a world that she had once thought indifferent. They didn't need to intervene again, but their presence reminded everyone that courage and compassion could coexist, that strength could be gentle, and that protection didn't always come from those in uniform or authority. It sometimes came from the hearts of those willing to stand up for what was right. It wasn't just a story of a dangerous night or a miraculous rescue. It was a story of resilience, of the human spirit's capacity to endure, and of the unpredictable ways in which life can deliver redemption. Emily often thought back to the moments of fear, the way her hands had trembled and her heart had raced, and she realized that those moments had shaped her as much as the moments of relief and joy had. The bikers hadn't just saved her from the thugs, they had rekindled a sense of hope, a belief in the goodness of strangers, and the courage to face the world with open eyes and an open heart. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps spread hope and reminds the world that acts of kindness, big or small, can change lives in ways we may never fully understand. Before we end, I have a special request. If this story inspired you, comment below and share a moment when someone unexpectedly helped you in your time of need. Your story might inspire someone else to act with courage and compassion. Emily's journey didn't end with that night. She became an advocate for others who faced fear and intimidation, volunteering her time at local shelters and organizing community events with the bikers who had once been strangers and were now lifelong friends. Her story became a testament to the fact that courage, kindness, and solidarity were not just abstract ideals. They were living, breathing forces capable of transforming ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. Years later, when people asked Emily what she remembered most about that night, she didn't recount the fear or the danger. She remembered the glint of determination in the biker's eyes, the unspoken promise that she wasn't alone, and the moment she realized that even in the darkest hours, light could find its way in. That light, she understood, wasn't just theirs. It was in all of us, waiting to be shared, waiting to be acted upon, waiting to turn ordinary people into heroes. And so, in a small diner on the corner of Maple and Fifth, amidst the clatter of dishes, the hum of conversation, and the soft glow of the neon sign, Emily served not just food, but hope, courage, and a reminder that the world, though flawed, was capable of extraordinary kindness. That night with the bikers wasn't just a rescue, it was a turning point, a story of humanity that would echo in her heart forever, and through her, touch countless others. Bikers wasn't just a rescue, it was a turning point, a story of humanity that would echo in her heart forever, and through her, touch countless others.